Today, the Post broke news that the highest-ranking career official at Treasury, a man named David Liebrick, is leaving the U.S. government, quote, after a clash with allies of billionaire Elon Musk.
The dissent that we saw, here's a little bit of what he said. I want to see if you agree.
It looked to me like it was initially accelerating normally, but then it stopped.
This is like a tiny candle in a vast darkness, and we should do everything we can to prevent that candle from going out.
Pilot of an F-35 fighter jet is safe after he crash-landed at an Air Force base in Alaska. Of course, the 104th Fighter Wing at Barnes Air National Guard Base in Westfield is expected to receive a new fleet of F-35s next year.
Fiery explosion in northeast Philadelphia, right in the middle of Friday rush hour near a small but popular mall. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro confirming a small plane had crashed. Videos from the scene show burning debris and heavy black smoke. Our local station, NBC 10 Philadelphia, reporting at least 3 homes and multiple vehicles caught fire as a result of the crash. The explosion caught on doorbell cameras around the area.
We're urging you to please stay away from the scene. If you see debris, call 911.
In a statement, the FAA says the plane was a Learjet that crashed after departing from Northeast Philadelphia Airport. The plane was operated by Jet Rescue, which is an air ambulance company. They say 6 people were on board and cannot confirm any survivors. The scene of the crash soaked in heavy rain as ambulances worked their way to the site more than an hour after the first call came in. Nearby, Gregory Gibson, who works at the Roosevelt Mall, sharing he's been unable to reach fellow co-workers still inside.
Some of those employees there are my friends. These are my family around this area, so I'm just so concerned about everybody's safety.
Now, the company that operates that air ambulance, Jet Rescue, says that tonight of the 6 people on board, 4 were their crew members. 1 was a pediatric patient, and the other was their escort. Or after the company tells us that young patient was a Mexican national who had successfully completed their treatment and was on their way back to Mexico. Jet Rescue says tonight their thoughts are with the families and anyone else who may have been hurt on the ground.
Able to confirm that 5 people are involved and 4 or have been transported.
I'd like to request a moment of silence for the victims and their families, please. I speak to you this morning in an hour of anguish. We are one family, and today we are all heartbroken. We're all searching for answers. The FAA is actively recruiting workers who suffer severe intellectual disabilities, psychiatric problems, and other mental and physical conditions under a diversity and inclusion hiring initiative spelled out on the agency's website. Can you imagine?
Are you saying this crash was somehow caused and the result of diversity hiring? And what evidence have you seen to support these claims?
It just could have been. We have a high standard. We've had a much higher standard than anybody else. And there are things where you have to go by brain power, you have to go by psychological quality, and psychological quality is a very important element of it. These are various very powerful tests that we put to use, and they were terminated by Biden, and Biden went by a standard that's the exact opposite. So we don't know, but we do know that you had two planes at the same level. You had a helicopter and a plane. That shouldn't have happened.
Mr. President, you have today blamed the diversity elements, but then told us that you weren't sure that the controllers made any mistake. You then said perhaps the helicopter pilots were the ones who made the mistake.
It's all under investigation.
I understand that. That's why I'm trying to figure out how you can come to the conclusion right now that diversity had something to do with this crash.
Because I have common sense.
Another plane crash in the United States has claimed at least 6 lives. This latest tragedy coming just days after a passenger jet and a military helicopter collided in Washington, D.C.
Let's just get your initial reaction. We've all seen the horrific crash in Philadelphia around 6:30 last night. What do you make of what may have happened? I learned from covering the Washington crash as a reporter and going to the NTSB briefings, they say that in all investigations, they kind of look at 3 things: the human element, the machine element, and the environment element. We think that it was a cold but not particularly harsh environment night. We now just heard in Nate Foy's report from the jet company that there was nothing wrong with the plane. So could this be human error?
Yeah, so the aircraft's landing gear was down. And if you see where the impact point was, it was almost right on the runway, which suggests that the pilot was troubleshooting some kind of problem. And all of a sudden, they had to eject.
Went up in flames, and I didn't want to drive any further.
Crews taking the pilot to a nearby medical facility for evaluation.
The pilot was executing standard procedures and executing their respective mission, and essentially experienced an in-flight malfunction.
This crash comes after a string of incidents involving military aircraft in recent years. In November 2023, an F-35 fighter jet went missing, then crash landed in rural South Carolina, the pilot surviving.
I'm sorry, what happened?
We got a pilot in the house, and I guess he landed in my backyard.
Back in Alaska, Air Force officials still looking into the cause of that fiery crash.
That's where we are right now.
This plane was a Learjet 55 owned by Jet Rescue, an air ambulance service. The twin-engine aircraft carrying a child, her mother and 4 crew, including doctors. It had only just taken off, bound for Tijuana, Mexico. It was in the air for just 41 seconds, reaching 1,600 feet before communications with air traffic control cut out.
Medevac Med Service 056 Northeast Tower, you on frequency? Medevac Med Service 056 Northeast Tower.
We have a lost aircraft. We're not exactly sure what happened, so we're trying to figure it out.
This flight was a repatriation flight of a patient who recovered and was headed home. She was fit to fly. It was a repatriation flight of a patient who recovered and was headed home. She was fit to fly.
Now, following that crash, the commander of the 354th Fighter Wing said he still has full faith in the capabilities of the F-35 as the premier fighter for the U.S. Air Force.
It's eerily quiet here at the scene. People struggling to process that an airplane has crashed into a densely populated area just 2 days after America's worst aviation disaster in nearly a quarter of a century, that mid-air collision in the skies above Washington.
We're learning more tonight about the moments leading up to America's worst aviation accident in decades. Flight data has revealed the Black Hawk helicopter may have been flying off course.
The Black Hawk helicopter seen flying in on the left of your screen.
You know, Arthur, you're touching on something that Chris Bauer, aviation expert in our last hour, touched on, and that is this rapid descent that we saw. Here's a little bit of what he said. I want to see if you agree.
It looked to me like it was initially accelerating normally, but then it stopped. It looked to me like it was initially accelerating normally, but then it stopped. It seemed to have leveled off, and then it started a descent. Ultimately wound up descending at over 11,000 feet a minute.
I was right here at the door of my job, and all I could see is this big ball of flames in the sky. Literally, you hear a loud bang. It shook the entire building. The whole building shook.
I was in shock. I'm still in shock. Like, this is insane. Why can this happen? And before that, to be honest, in my mind, I thought, like, what if the rocket would, because I'm from Ukraine, right?
And before that, to be honest, in my mind, I thought, like, what if the rocket would, because I'm from Ukraine, right?
Tonight, new flight tracking data shows that military chopper may have been flying off course.
The airplane was coming down on its track. It was perfect. It was in perfect shape coming down, and something was in its way. You can't let that happen.
The Black Hawk had been using a specialised, narrow, low-altitude corridor, but moments before the crash, it appeared to climb some 30 metres above its approved altitude. The Federal Aviation Administration today announcing an indefinite shutdown of that flight path.
What concerns have you had specifically about the congested airspace, and have you ever raised those directly with the FAA?
The United States airspace is the safest in the world. Safety is one of our top priorities.
It wasn't safe in this instance. There have been near misses here before. Have you raised concerns with the FAA about the congested airspace around Washington's airports?
We comply with all FAA safety regulations.
Radar shows another American flight had to abort landing due to a helicopter crossing its flight path at the same airport. And in years past, pilots have reported nearly a dozen near misses.
Is there time for a permanent shift in DC and across the country to keep airspace safe?
In this incident, it should not have happened. We have in aviation what's called a Swiss cheese approach, wherein if something fails, a backup should catch it. Multiple layers of redundancy. All right, explain that to us in layman's terms. What's being said between the two?
What essentially, that helicopter was taking off from a small military base just across the river on the Pentagon side. And it's crossing through the busiest airspace in that region.
He joins us now. Lindy, describe what you saw and heard last night.
David, thank you so much for having me. My dad and I were actually on separate paths, and he got closer to the blast zone, and he shared footage with me that we're not able to share because it's so deeply traumatizing and graphic. After seeing it, I frankly wanted to vomit. It's just so gruesome. I wasn't able to get in because I was heading that way and the police were asking us to turn around. All I saw was the fireball. I actually didn't know it was a plane crash initially because I just saw the aftermath.
Overwhelming sense of grief as this tragedy has touched so many different communities. At least 2 of the victims were as young as 12 years old, some dying alongside their parents. And we've been speaking with loved ones who are determined to keep their memories alive.
This morning, we're beginning to see the faces and hear the stories of the 67 lives lost in that fiery crash over the Potomac. Flight 5342's first officer, Samuel Lilly, was just 29 years old and newly engaged. Tiffany Gibson telling ABC News her little brother was a kind soul.
He was young, he was so young, and he was excited about life and his future and getting a dog and a house and kids, and this is just tragic.
Ian Epstein, one of 2 flight attendants on board, was a father and husband. His family saying in a statement he loved being a flight attendant because he truly enjoyed traveling and meeting new people, but his true love was his family. Elizabeth Keys being remembered as a strong, fearless woman who embraced life at full speed. She was killed on her 33rd birthday, returning home early from a business trip so she could go on a date with her longtime partner, David. Kia Duggins, a civil rights attorney, set to become a professor at Howard University Law School in the fall. Howard saying that Duggins dedicated her career to fighting against unconstitutional policing and unjust money bail practices. And U.S. figure skating mourning the loss of at least 14 athletes, coaches, and family members who are returning from a training camp. 12-year-old Brielle Byer, a cancer survivor, was with her mother, Justina.
A Jersey Village mother is demanding answers after she says her daughter was denied access to a school restroom, leaving her in a humiliating situation.
The school has not responded to the accusations, but that mother says she will not stop until they are held accountable. Our Ricky Munoz has that story.
This 12-year-old girl tried to go to the restroom. She told her teacher. The teacher blocked the door, not letting her in. Not long after that, she couldn't hold it anymore. And now her and her mother are both frustrated on how the school handled the situation.
I told her, I need really to go, so I tried to go in the bathroom, and she moved her arm to block it from me.
So she puts her arm on that doorway. You can't go into the restroom. What happens next?
She told me to turn around and walk back to class, and I did. On my way back, I tripped on something. I started peeing on myself, and my best friend looked at me. She was like, "Go to the nurse right now." The nurse, I spent a few minutes in there, and the nurse told me to go back to class.
What was going through your mind when you had to go back to class like that?
I was feeling embarrassed and uncomfortable. I made sure to cover myself up the best way I could, because I only had a sweatshirt. People were just staring at me, and some people were making jokes about me. The boys, they were saying, "Oh, are you on your lady days?"
Walk me through with what happened. I mean, your daughter calls you, tells you she wet her pants. What's going through your mind?
She said, "Mom, I peed on myself." And I was like, "Why did you pee on yourself?" And she explained to me that the teacher wouldn't let me go. She blocked me from going to the bathroom. I was furious.
If you had that administration right in front of you right now, what would you tell them?
Y'all have a culture issue that needs to be resolved. Steps need to be taken because no child should have to deal with that. And I understand structure completely, but we have to be able to use discernment. And if you do not have discernment, you shouldn't be stopping anybody from using the bathroom. This embarrassment does not go away. Things like this stays with people forever.
We did reach out to the school, and the school has not responded back yet. But meanwhile, Jalen's mom removed her from that school, and she is still waiting to get some answers.
Whistleblower researcher of OpenAI who died last month. It was held in Milpitas for 26-year-old Suchir Balaji. There are a lot of questions about his death. Balaji's parents hired a private investigator just yesterday. They don't believe their son would have died, but...
Yeah, I was the last person to talk to him. He was happy more. He is not depressed or anything. And it was his birthday week.
He made plans of going to CES in January. That was the last phone conversation he had with anyone. He went into his apartment, never came out. It was left, and there is nobody else in the scene. That doesn't mean they can just come to conclusion. And we have seen the blood shots in the bathroom. signs of fight in the bathroom.
Vigil organizers say they're honoring Balaji's bravery and raising awareness to corporate accountability in artificial intelligence.
Because you have some very surprising statistics that I think will probably, frankly, freak out some of the viewers.
So, yeah, first of all, the AI race and the AI war between U.S. and China, I think, is one of the most important issues of today. We took out a full-page ad on the Washington Post on Tuesday saying that, America must win the AI war. And so this sort of relative race in AI between the U.S. and China is critical. Today, we released Humanity's Last Exam, which is a new evaluation or benchmark of AI models that we produced by getting, math, physics, biology, chemistry professors to provide the hardest questions they could possibly imagine that are relevant to their recent research to really put the test to the models. To give you a sense, no model is getting above 10% on this test. That being said, what we found is that DeepSeek, which is the leading Chinese AI lab, their model is actually the top performing, or roughly on par with the best American models, which are O1 from...
Okay, so I think we have been all under the impression that the U.S. was way ahead of China as it relates to AI, in large part because we have access to, NVIDIA GPUs and chips and other things that supposedly the Chinese do not have. I keep hearing from people all week, from people, Chinese AI executives, that they say, we're so close, and by the way, we're doing it with one hand tied behind our back. Our algos are better. We're actually going to figure out how to do this, do it better than the U.S., and in even a more energy efficient way because we don't need these super powerful chips. Are they happen to be right?
There's two things happening. First, it is true, it has been true for a long time that the United States has been ahead. And that's been true for, maybe the past decade. That being said, the very recent event on Christmas Day, about a month ago, DeepSeek released a model. Which, by the way, I think is symbolic that the Chinese lab releases, an earth-shattering model on Christmas Day when, the rest of us are sort of celebrating the holiday.
Which, by the way, I think is symbolic that the Chinese lab releases, an earth-shattering model on Christmas Day when, the rest of us are sort of celebrating the holiday.
We can go out there, we can make life multiplanetary, understand the universe, find out what's going on. Maybe the aliens will come visit us. Maybe they are here right now. I don't know.
Maybe the aliens will come visit us. Maybe they are here right now. I don't know.
Alien registration card. The people do ask me, do I think aliens are among us? I'm like, I haven't seen any. There's illegal aliens, but there's a lot of those. But I haven't seen any sort of green aliens with antennas on their head or anything like that. Maybe they are. They're just very subtle, but I haven't seen them. So, but I think we want to be the aliens exploring other galaxies.
When you say what are the aliens,
where are the aliens? Why don't we see them? A lot of people think we see aliens, but I've not seen any evidence of aliens. We've got 6,000 satellites in orbit, and not once have we had to maneuver around an alien spacecraft.
But on this Earth, the U.S. military's had to do a lot of maneuvering around objects they can't explain.
Well, unidentified flying objects is one thing, but there's always a bunch of classified programs that are underway of new aircraft and new missiles and things. So that are classified even within the military. So it's only if you have the top secret compartmented clearance, would you know about this new program? So then some pilot sees something moving fast and says, "Hey, I saw a UFO." I'm like, "Yeah, that was actually a new weapons program, but we can't tell you that."
Hey, good morning, Leslie. So here's a name that our audience may want to write down, DeepSeek. This is a new, free, open source AI model that beats the latest OpenAI and Meta models on key benchmarks, and it was made for a fraction of the cost. Now, it was trained by a Chinese research lab that used NVIDIA H800s. That's a lower performance version of the H100 chips that are cheaper, more available, and tailored for restricted markets like China. Now, I've been testing it out this morning, and on the surface, it looks and acts just like OpenAI's ChatGPT. And in fact, it actually thinks it is ChatGPT. When I asked, what model are you? It answered, I'm an AI language model created by OpenAI specifically based on the GPT-4 architecture, suggesting that it was trained on ChatGPT outputs, which, leaving aside terms of service violations, it means that entirely new state-of-the-art models can be built on what is already out there. In other words, OpenAI's moat may be shrinking. If a model like DeepSeek can emerge with competitive performance, minimal cost, and reliance on existing outputs, it signals a rapidly shrinking barrier to entry in AI development, challenging the current dominance of industry leaders like OpenAI.
So my first day back from having a nice life, it's my honor to welcome three of the world's leading technology CEOs. And in the case of Larry Ellison, it's well beyond technology, sort of CEO of everything.
Well beyond technology, sort of CEO of everything. CEO of everything.
He's an amazing man and an amazing business person. But to announce the largest AI infrastructure project by far in history, and it's all taking place right here in America. As you know, there's great competition for AI and other things, and they're coming in at the highest level. We're joined by Oracle Executive Chairman Larry Ellison, SoftBank CEO, my friend Masa Yoshi-san, and CEO of OpenAI, and I would say by far the leading expert based on everything I read, Sam Altman. So that's great that you're coming in together. That's a massive group of talent and money. Together, these world-leading technology giants are announcing the formation of Stargate. So put that name down in your books.
Announcing the formation of Stargate. So put that name down in your books.
Because I think you're going to hear a lot about it in the future. A new American company that will invest $500 billion at least in AI infrastructure in the United States and very, very quickly, moving very rapidly, creating over 100,000 American jobs almost immediately. This monumental undertaking is a resounding declaration of confidence in America's potential under a new president. A new president. I didn't say it, they did. So I appreciate that, fellas.
You read the Bible?
A little bit.
Well, I'm gonna tell you a story in the Bible, right? They wanted money, and God was like, I'm gonna give you talents, right? It was three people, right? God gave them talent. God gave the first person talent. He gave them 3 talents. Gave the other person 5 talents. Gave the other person 1 talent, right? That's what I'm on. So the one person, they came with their talents, and God came back, and it was a king, but we're gonna say God. He came back and said, what'd you do with your talents? He said, well, I took about 3 talents, and I made 10. He said, you did good. You go on. He said, other guys, what'd you do with your talents? He said, well, you gave me 5. I took them 5 talents, and I made 13. They said, well, you did good. They asked the other nigga, what'd you do with your talents? He said, well, look, I got this 1 talent for you. I was so scared to use it. You know what God did?
Punished him.
Nah, took his talent and everything else he had. Stop playing on me. So if you don't use it, you lose it. I swear to God, I gotta use all my talents.
What are your talents?
I'm a demon slayer.
Damn.
I just gotta keep it real. But y'all probably don't understand that.
I want you to handle it. Break it down. Break it down. Demon Slayer.
I mean, right now, my biggest war is Elon Musk. Because I'm really trying to stop the AI. Because what y'all don't know is the AI is really the demons. That's what I want. They're the demons. And they try to take human form. And they gonna be in the robots. That's what I want. And once they take human forms and get in the robot, they gonna have babies. And here's the thing. Like our soul is in this body. But once they have babies, it's gonna kind of like be stuck. Because you're gonna be half and half. So now God can never get your soul back. That's what I want. So it's over. That's why the fire going on.
You saying the Tesla robots, Optimus?
Yeah, they the devil.
With AI involved,
it's the devil. You talk to the devil. Like, you go to ChatGPT right now, you can talk to the devil. That's what I want.
I saw a kid kill himself because he thought he was talking to a girl on ChatGPT.
No, he talking to the devil. That's what I want. I mean, a lot of people don't know. They don't know. That's the devil. And a robot, that's the devil taking human form. I ain't coming to make no shit up.
So what is a sex box? Like,
I mean, listen, so they trying to make it nut right now. I mean, they got it halfway done, right? But when nut is good, they gonna have sex with the woman. And then they gonna come like, it's gonna be like hybrid, right? It's gonna be like half alien, but it's not gonna be half alien, it's gonna be half AI, half what? Human, right? And guess what happened then? You live forever, you trap the soul forever. You beating God, stop playing on me. And that's what we're working on. I mean, aren't we? That was what they working on.
There was no evidence of foul play in its initial investigation. Still, his mother says there were things out of place in his apartment.
The pen drive is missing. And then his computer was messed up. His desktop was on, left on for 3 days. It's messed up.
Balaji started working as a researcher for OpenAI in 2020, and after resigning, he publicly claimed the company violated copyright laws while developing ChatGPT. His parents say he was called to be a witness for a case against OpenAI 4 days before his death.
His parents say he was called to be a witness for a case against OpenAI 4 days before his death.
Well, this footage looks like something straight out of a horror film. A masked man rang a family's doorbell holding a sign with a specific verse from the Bible.
Lots of people nowadays have security cameras as doorbells and around homes today, but one person we met saw this on her doorbell camera. Somebody in that mask holding a sign with a Bible verse on it. Our Aaron Jones hearing from the Carrollton homeowner tonight who has one very simple question. Why?
The Ring camera video has left her visibly shaken.
I'm scared to leave the house. I'm scared to be at the house.
Understandably, this Carrollton homeowner does not want to show her face, but tells us about what happened in her neighborhood near West Hebron Parkway in 121 last Saturday around 8 p.m.
My husband and I had gone out to dinner, and then we had stopped off at the store to pick up a Powerball ticket, and I was waiting in the car for him, and my Ring notification went off.
She says she saw a masked person in her driveway. The person walked through the side yard to her front door.
Person popped up on the video with that goat's mask on, and they were approaching my door.
She noticed the person pretended to knock and was holding a sign with a Bible verse on it.
It's about the end times. It's about Judgment Day. I freaked out. I mean, I was like, I couldn't even think of anything.
The homeowner called Carrollton police, but the person had already left. Police say a report was filed, but they found no crime had occurred. So now they're monitoring the situation.
4 times John talks about this. He said, I saw a beast rising in chapter 13 out of the sea. That means coming out of humanity. That the beast is I believe, a person. Some people think it's a system, a government, but these things are melded together. But he seems to be an individual having 7 heads, 10 horns, and his horns 10 crowns. But most importantly, it says, and on his head are words, names of blasphemy. That his entire orientation of this new governmental agency is to overthrow the kingdom of God. But his goal has been to establish a global empire over which he can cruelly rule mankind through the agency of demons possessed minion by the name of the beast. See, John graphically describes this government, this entity that he's going to rule over and rule from. It has 7 heads. And later on in chapter 17, it says the 7 heads are 7 mountains, which I find is interesting. It has 10 horns, which refers to nations or dominions, we're told later on. It has 7 crowns, which means it has leaders or rulers that go from 10 down to 7 and ultimately become consolidated into the power of one man. These rulers will give all of their power and authority to this one man who is nothing else but a placeholder, a puppet for Satan. That's because he's called also, one of his names is Satan. It means literally the adversary, the enemy. Satanos, he's out to get you. And there should be no question in your mind that Satan isn't just a guy in red pajamas with a really bad haircut or pointed head. He's a guy who simply is dedicated to one thing, and that is your utter and the most cruel and vicious destruction that he can bring into your life against you. that to do that, he becomes, another term is he becomes the deceiver, the one who leads people away from the truth. In fact, we're told in this passage in chapter 12 that he leads the whole world into deception. I mean, that seems to us a massive thing to accomplish until we found out about CNN, MSNBC, and Facebook and Google. We realized that the capacity to mislead and to lie to people is very vibrant and very extensive. And as he chooses, he is able to lead the whole world into deception, even many times to teach us to be people who come to the point where we start living by lies. Something that's very, very unnatural. Lying is unnatural to the human organism, if you will. And when we do lie, it begins to create its own set of stresses and pressures in our life. It's unnaturally uncomfortable, so that you either have to confess what you've done, or else you need to harden your heart, harden your conscience, so that you stop being haunted by the fact that you have not been truthful.
Top story tonight, the killing of the brother of rapper Too Short. Someone shot and killed him during an attempted robbery of a building in East Oakland. NBC Bay Area's Valina Jones has been tracking the story all day. She's got details about what happened.
OPD received several calls at around 0700 hours of a shot spotter activation and several 911 calls.
Tonight, OPD investigators are combing over evidence and searching for the people responsible for shooting and killing a man in an attempted robbery turned deadly. Investigators say around 7 this morning, multiple suspects tried to ram a car into an industrial building on 49th Avenue near East 12th Street.
The suspects arrived to the location. They attempted to force their way into the property. While they were attempting their way in, the victim stepped out, was confronted by the suspects, and the suspects fired several rounds at the victim.
The victim is rapper Too Short's older brother. Police confirmed his identity as 61-year-old Wayne Shaw. Police say Shaw was shot multiple times and transported to a nearby hospital where he died.
Thank you so much, Andrew. The violent crime plaguing our city has now hit home for one of Memphis's most well-known rappers. Project Pat's son was killed in a shooting in a park right across the street from the airport. Fox 13's investigative reporter Kayla Solomon is putting the pieces together from the shooting that happened in the middle of the winter storm. Kayla.
Yeah, it happened almost 2 weeks ago on the Friday when Memphis was hit by a half foot of snow. Police were called to a park in the Imogene Heights neighborhood and found a man dead. He was later identified as 21-year-old Patrick Houston Jr. Today, Fox 13 confirmed he was the son of Memphis rapper Project Pat. He's been a big name in the rap world since the early 90s. He achieved big success featuring on 3 6 Mafia albums. One of his own albums went gold. He also rose to fame in the group The Kazi. He's the brother of Juicy J, one of the founders of 3 6 Mafia. But in Memphis, he's also known for his prison ministry. His nonprofit called the Go Foundation goes into prisons where Project Pat speaks. He says he's helped more than 4,000 prisoners give their lives to God in the past 5 years.
So God gives people out here gifts of people out here have gifts of influence. I was using my gift in the wrong way.
So far, police have not released any information about the shooter or what was going on in the park that afternoon in the middle of a snowstorm.
It's just a really simple question. You've taken in $2.5 million. I want to know if you will commit right now that not only will you not go to work for drug companies, you won't go to work suing the drug companies and taking your rake out of that while you're a secretary and for 4 years after. It's just...
I'll commit to not taking any fees from drug companies while I'm secretary.
No, I'm asking about fees from suing drug companies. Will you agree not to do that?
You're asking me to not sue drug companies,
no,
and I'm not going to agree to that,
drug
Senator.
Companies as much as you want.
I'm not going to agree to not sue drug companies or anybody.
So let's do a quick count here of how, as Secretary of HHS, if you get confirmed, you could influence every one of those lawsuits. Well, let me start the list. You could publish your anti-vaccine conspiracies, but this time on U.S. government letterhead, something a jury might be impressed by. You could appoint people to the CDC vaccine panel who share your anti-vax views and let them do your dirty work. You could tell the CDC vaccine panel to remove a particular vaccine from the vaccine schedule. You could remove vaccines from special compensation programs, which would open up manufacturers to mass torts. You could make more injuries eligible for compensation even if there is no causal evidence. You could change vaccine court processes to make it easier to bring junk lawsuits. You could turn over FDA data to your friends at the law firm and they could use it however it benefited them. You could change vaccine labeling. You could change vaccine information rules. You could change which claims are compensated in the vaccine injury compensation program. There's a lot of ways that you can influence those future lawsuits and pending lawsuits while you are Secretary of HHS. And I'm asking you to commit right now that you will not take a financial stake in every one of those lawsuits so that what you do as Secretary will also benefit you financially down the line.
I'll comply with all the ethical guidelines.
That's not the question. You and I, you have said...
You're asking me, Senator, you're asking me not to sue vaccine pharmaceutical companies. Yeah, you are. That's exactly what you're doing.
Look, no one should be fooled here. As Secretary of HHS, Robert Kennedy will have the power to undercut vaccines and vaccine manufacturing across our country. And for all of his talk about follow the science and his promise that he won't interfere with those of us who want to vaccinate his kids, the bottom line is the same. Kennedy can kill off access to vaccines and make millions of dollars while he does it.
We're still in the early hours of understanding what this means, but I think this may end up being a very big deal. Today, the Post broke news that the highest-ranking career official at Treasury, a man named David Liebrick, is leaving the U.S. government, quote, after a clash with allies of billionaire Elon Musk over access to sensitive payment systems.
Is leaving the U.S. government, quote, after a clash with allies of billionaire Elon Musk over access to sensitive payment system.
So Elon Musk and his team of people have reportedly been asking Treasury for access to the payment systems that the government uses to pay its bills, to pay out trillions of dollars a year across the federal government, also payments to businesses and individual households. So if you're a federal worker, before your paycheck hits your bank account, it goes through the system. Same thing if you get a Social Security check or a Medicare benefit. Payments to government contractors, tax refunds, grant recipients. You get the idea. This is basically the government's checkbook at the Treasury Department, how they pay for everything. It's so sensitive that only a few career officials actually have access to use this system. But according to the Post today, Elon Musk and his team have demanded access to it as well, which led to a dispute with a very high-ranking career official at Treasury who's now quit over this dispute, who's now resigned. The Post says it is unclear what exactly Elon Musk's team wanted to do, why they wanted access to this incredibly sensitive system. One former Treasury Department official tells the Post, quote, this payment system has never been used in a way to execute a partisan agenda. You have to really put bad intentions in place for that to be the case.
I try to tell everybody think I'm crazy.
I believe we have revelations.
I think
the LA fires, do you feel that's part of revelations coming to fruition?
You don't get it, do you? It's all the same. Like time don't exist. Revelation, everything's happening now. Everything happened now. No past, no future. It's only the present. Everything happened now.
So what is your take on the LA fires? Do you feel this is a biblical thing that's going on over there in Hollywood or near Hollywood?
Hollywood is the devil. They take a lot of people's booty. I mean, like, if you run around taking all that booty, I mean, the ass already on fire, why not burn it down? I mean, it's just like the same. Right? I just gotta keep it real. Cause, I mean, I leave right now. I just come up for that. I'm not Illuminati no more. I'm half Illuminati, half game.
God damn. What I was about to say was, I would like to kind of go through
the 10 Commandments with you and give me your take on each commandment.
God.
Now, let me do it, please.
Come on, Jesus told you, there's only one commandment.
What's that?
Love your brother.
Okay.
And love.
Other news tonight, the former Stanford man who's accused of stealing almost $1 million in an elaborate DoorDash scam was shot to death Monday in New York. This came right before he was due in court in Stanford for a potential resolution in that case. News 12 Connecticut's Marissa Alter with the latest tonight.
David Smith was supposed to appear in Stanford Superior Court Wednesday morning to accept or reject a plea offer in his case. Instead, the state's attorney's office learned Smith was killed 2 days ago. New Rochelle police found David Smith shot several times in the chest Monday morning at the Heritage Homes complex. Police said a personal dispute led to the 22-year-old's death. They've since arrested 4 men in connection.
Community members did help with this, with calls to the police of the shots and descriptions of people running away.
Smith was living in Mount Vernon. He moved there after Stanford police arrested him in June 2023 in what one investigator called the most massive scheme he's seen. Smith is accused of scamming DoorDash drivers in California out of almost $1 million. Investigators recovered a large chunk of it, $733,000 in cash, when they seized 5 safes from his apartment. Police explained how the scam worked. They said Smith would use one of his many phones to place a fake DoorDash order in California. Then when the driver was on the way, Smith would impersonate DoorDash support and claim there was a problem with the order.
He would get them to click a link or go to a website, and then that essentially would turn over their credentials, their username and password to him. Once he was in control of that, he would change the billing information and steal any funds that they had for deliveries they had done, basically steal their paycheck.
More than 700 drivers were scammed over the course of 2.5 years. Police said Smith also stole the identities of dozens of people to open debit card accounts where he transferred the stolen money. Smith was considering a plea deal in the case at the time of his death. His decision to take the offer or go to trial had been expected at Wednesday's court hearing. The details of the deal weren't made public. As for the over $700,000 in cash that was seized in this case, Stanford police still have that money. What happens to it and whether it will go to all the victims as restitution will be determined at a hearing in March.
I never really think something like this would or could happen to him.
Desmond Jackson says his dad had spent a lifetime coaching at schools like Tennessee State University, Auburn, University of Alabama, Georgia Southern, and most recently Fort Valley State University. The 60-year-old had started Ubering on the weekends in Middle Georgia where he lived to make extra money. This past Sunday, his wife noticed he was out pretty late.
She hadn't heard from him, and it was around 2, it was about 2 in the morning. She mentioned his phone, saying, hey, is everything okay? I haven't heard from you. You plan on going to work tomorrow?
The person on the other end then made an unusual request.
Red flag of something not right, just because that's something that, no one's going to normally ask for their own social.
His wife filed a missing persons report in Warner Robins Monday. Jackson's car was found hours later abandoned in Warner Robins. Then Wednesday, their worst fears were realized when Jackson was found shot to death in a wooded area on Donald Lee Hollowell Parkway in Atlanta.
Uber drivers don't have the money on them. And we don't know if that him asking for the social, if that was something that, maybe he was trying to get into the account to get the money, possibly, if that's what he was hoping for. They don't know if he was just trying to rob, just to steal the car.
In a new development, Atlanta police say 30-year-old Equane Brown has been identified as the person who requested the Uber ride in Houston County. He is being held at the Houston County Jail on an unrelated robbery charge. Atlanta police say Brown is a person of interest in the former coach's murder.
A slight sense of satisfaction in the sense knowing that the opportunity for justice is en route.
Has anybody else noticed that in this recent speech, the coat of arms behind Trump, where usually the head of the eagle is facing towards the olive branch, whilst having these arrows, which means that it's capable of peace and war, but it's going to look more towards peace. The eagle in this coat of arms is looking towards the arrows, towards war. And it's damn, that's kind of settling.
If he had been
the president, if the victory wasn't stolen from him in 2020, maybe the Ukrainian crisis that arose in 2022 would have never appeared.
We're moving on to more analysis then of U.S. foreign policy under Trump 2.0 or Trump 47. Choose your formula as you wish. What next for Israel then under President Trump? The U.S. president calls himself the most pro-Israel U.S. president in history. That's what he calls himself. And staunchly supported Israel during his first term, even before taking office for the second term. He proved instrumental in pushing Benjamin Netanyahu's government into signing a ceasefire deal. Remember, that's a deal that Joe Biden put on the table back in May. Emerald Maxwell has this.
The self-proclaimed best friend that Israel has ever had is back in the White House.
We're going to make Israel great again, and we're going to make America great again.
At the Google Maps that everyone seems to be talking about. Okay, so right now you have your normal Google Maps here overlooking the bridge, but this is what people are talking about. So let me zoom in here, and they're focusing in on this area just north of the bridge here. And so here's the main bridge. If you zoom in, still okay, you're thinking, okay, what's this issue about? Let's zoom in a little bit more. This is what people are talking about. These help signs that are, look at this one. This is a big help sign that is just being showcased here in this lot right now. And a lot of people are wondering, okay, what is this? And who is calling for help here? So they do not know what the situation is, and so many people online are thinking of ideas. Is this migrants trying to reach out for help? Is there some sort of underground area in this section where they are being trafficked?
Migrants trying to reach out for help. Is there some sort of underground area in this section where they are being trafficked
right now? And that is the main concern here, as these help signs are being spotted just on a simple Google Maps of the satellite version here of Google. And once again, you can just continue to see just how they are described here in this lot, this big one, saying help, but we don't know what is the reason behind this. A lot of conspiracies out there as well, but once we get more information, we will pass that along to you. I just wanted to bring that to you because it's getting a lot of buzz right now online. Let me know what your thoughts are here on this matter, as it is definitely taking really social media by storm.
It was one of West Michigan's most infamous crimes, but now the convicted killer serving a life sentence has been granted parole.
In 1997, a jury convicted 16-year-old Federico Kiko Cruz of first-degree murder for the savage beating and beheading of a Grand Rapids area teenager named David Crawford. Cruz was sentenced to mandatory life in prison.
But that sentence was upended when the U.S. Supreme Court struck down mandatory life for juveniles. Now, according to the Michigan Department of Corrections, Cruz has been granted parole.
News 8's Adriana Doria went to Sparta and talked with neighbors who wonder why this is happening.
It's just a kick in the gut when somebody can do something like that. David doesn't get a second chance, but Kiko does. How is that?
We're about to mark 30 years since Selena was killed, and now her killer is up for parole.
Yeah, it is not a guarantee it'll be granted. It just means that the process for a possible board hearing has begun for this woman, Yolanda Saldivar. Erica Hernandez spoke with a parole attorney about the likelihood that Selena's killer will be let out of prison.
It's a crime that has never been forgotten. The March 31st, 1995 murder of Tejano superstar Selena. Yolanda Saldivar was later charged, convicted, and sentenced to life in prison. 30 years later, she is now up for parole. The initial review process began back in October, which is 6 months out from the March 30th parole eligibility date. According to the Texas Board of Pardons and Paroles, a file is prepared for the review process, and it includes a letter of recommendation for Saldivar, as well as an interview with her.
It will also include letters from the victim's family, if any are written.
The victim's letters are very powerful and pretty very impactful, especially in the early days of the parole process.
San Antonio parole attorney Marshall Millard explained the process to us and says a 3-member board will look at all aspects of this case, including what Saldivar did while in prison.
And look at a lot of things as far as what have they done to embrace either new programs available to them. And that's what they want to look for, to see if there's a rehabilitation and someone who will be successful on parole.
The second life is the same. Like you die, live at the same time. You die, live, and come back all at the same time. That's what I'm so it's like the Matrix. No, that's what I'm about. Like everything happened at the same time. Let me tell you how it works, right? The past and the future is like, the future is like dark, but like the present is like, can control the future. But the present ain't nothing but like pictures, like still shots. So imagine like a camera, and it take pictures. Like once it take the picture, it's gone, but it's trapped in the universe. And you can use it for information, but you can't get back to it no more. That's how you know like Back to the Future a lot. They can never go back to the future, because the future like don't exist. Everything's happening now. Yeah, that's what a lot of people don't know. A lot of people, everybody like, I remember this, you don't remember nothing. It's like, you don't remember nothing for real. You think you do. Like, it really happening right now.
But do you remember?
No, it's happening right now.
Because for you to say that they don't remember nothing, you can remember that they don't remember nothing.
You can't trick me. That's all everything right now.
I don't want to trick you. I'm trying to get some understanding.
I'm talking about right now, like, the world is, like, tricky. Like, the world really don't exist. It's like a thought. But a thought, like, when God said, let there be light, and it became light, that's how you know that you control the world by your voice.
It is the determination of the Science and Security Board of the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists that the world has not made sufficient progress on existential risks threatening all of humanity. We thus move the clock forward. In setting the clock closer to midnight, we send a stark signal. Because the world is already perilously close to the precipice, any move towards midnight should be taken as an indication of extreme danger and an unmistakable warning. Every second of delay in reversing course increases the probability of global disaster. It is now 89 seconds to midnight. This is the closest the world has ever been to midnight.
People do ask me, have I seen UFOs and aliens and that kind of thing? And I haven't. And I think I would have seen them by now. So it appears that we might be the only consciousness, at least in this galaxy. And if so, that's kind of a scary prospect, because it means that the light of consciousness is like a tiny candle in a vast darkness, and we should do everything we can to prevent that candle from going out.
It means that the light of consciousness is like a tiny candle in a vast darkness, and we should do everything we can to prevent that candle from going out.